Welcome back to Truth to Tell. I'm Michelle Alimoradi.
And I'm Andy Driscoll. And if all goes well today, we should come away from this show fully prepared to take over the world. Well, not saying that life coaching promises this. Just trying to fulfill one of my lofty goals in life. Yes. Well, anyway, seriously, and I hope, I suppose our coaches here today would rather we treated their practices and professions with a bit more seriousness. Surely none of us misunderstands the term coaching when it comes to, say, sports. Coaching is a sport. Coaching a sport is the top position in any of those physical pursuits, and very direct in terms of its hierarchical authority. This hierarchy seems to disappear into a more nebulous realm and some controversy when linked to the professions of so-called life coaching. Guidance seems to be a better word to describe this application of the term.
Yes, and the term life coach, getting back to our main discussion today, is defined by Wikipedia as a practice that helps people identify and achieve personal goals. Life coaches assist clients by using a variety of tools and techniques. Life coaching draws inspiration from disciplines such as sociology, psychology, positive adult development, and career counseling. Specialty life coaches may have degrees in psychological counseling, hypnosis, dream analysis, marketing, and other areas relevant to providing guidance. However, they are not necessarily therapists or consultants. Psychological intervention and business analysis may be outside the scope of some coaches' work. And that is all from the Wikipedia page on
yes,
coaching.
Yes, indeed. Well, nevertheless, the field has its critics, and terms like pop psychology or simplistic or reductionist are thrown around with some abandon, indicating far more complexity than simplicity as expressions of fundamental beliefs driving the profession. Coaching itself is a Topsy-like pursuit. A sample of the specialty areas where varying techniques apply include attention deficit hyperactive disorder. That's me. I'm ADHD. Business coaching, especially as a human resource development tool, self-explanatory executive coaching area. Career, financial, personal, conflict, and health coaching. I was just told the other day, suggested the other day, yesterday, I think, that once I put out the announcement for this show that we should do a whole show on health coaching. Maybe we should. You could really get into every one of these things and have a year's full of shows.
We'll just do a coaching series.
Yikes! Mentioned also in the list are the interesting specialties: victimization and dating coaching, and then even Christian coaching. I suppose you could say that about any religion, too. Well, all of this to say that this rapidly burgeoning and increasingly popular field is touching huge numbers of people, companies, specific constituencies. What do the practitioners have to say about all this? Well, we're going to ask them right now. Friend of the show, Elizabeth Dickinson, returns, this time as a life coach in her own right, and herself a graduate of the aforementioned. Well, I didn't say the aforementioned. We were going to have Paula Hemming here today, and she heads up the coaching program at Adler School, and we'll hear more about the Adler School. Elizabeth is a graduate of that school. But her local activism and environmental advocacy is well known around here. And Elizabeth, it's great to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
Thanks.
And we also have with us Dave Wondra. Am I saying your last name correctly, Dave?
That's right.
All right. And he is an International Coaching Federation certified coach and founder of Wondra Group, an executive coaching practice. And Dave brings more than 25 years of experience to his practice. He serves as an adjunct faculty member of the University of St. Thomas, where he also teaches a graduate level or several graduate level leadership courses. And if that's not enough, he also plays freelance trumpet around the Minneapolis area. Welcome to you, Dave Wondra.
Thanks, Michelle.
Where do you blow?
What's that?
Where do you blow?
Big bands.
Big bands.
Yeah.
Oh, are you part of the Wolverines or anything?
No,
like
no,
that?
no, 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 no.
Oh.
No, I do subbing around town in big bands, actually.
Oh, that's kind of a cool deal. So it is a sort of a jazz thing, eh?
Uh-huh.
Well, call us with your comments and questions about coaching and all of the Adler movement and things like that. There's so much to talk about in this arena. 612-341-0980 is the phone number. 612-341-0980, or tweet us at TTT Andy Driscoll, or post your comments on Truth to Tell's Facebook page, facebook.com/truth-to-tell. That's one word, Truth to Tell. Excuse me. We're happy to be live streaming this show today, not only on our usual KFAI.org website, but on video as well. Craig Stelmacher is our videographer. He's returned back to our studios, and we're delighted to have him back and uploading the show at livestream.com/truth-to-tell. And what?
MN.
MN. Oh, Truth to Tell MN? Oh, Truth to Tell MN. Livestream.com, Truth to Tell MN. Thank you, Craig. So you can watch us as well as hearing us online. Later, both the video and the audio portions of this program and all other shows that we do this with will appear on our website under the archives at www.truthtotell.org/archives. And so go on up and listen to us again if you dare. Okay.
And remember, you can give us a call and join the conversation. We always like to include you as a guest on in our discussion panel. So the number to call to get in on the conversation live is 612-341-0980, 612-341-0980 to talk about the profession of life coaching today.
All right. So, Dave Wondra, start us out. You've been in the biz a long time. Outline the what I think is relatively brief history of this whole practice of coaching and life coaching, that is. And why did it come to be when people have so many other counseling alternatives available to them? What was that about?
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a young profession. It's only 25 years really that it's been established and growing. I remember back when I went through my training, which was late 90s. At that time, we were told, "Don't quit your day job. It's something that you might add into other work."
Yeah.
Last year, the International Coach Federation did a global survey of coaching, now estimating there's about 48,000 coaches worldwide. And they're generating about $2 billion of revenue. So it's turned into real work.
48,000 coaches?
Coaches worldwide.
Oh, mm-hmm. Okay.
Can we paint a picture of what this actually is? Because what I'm imagining is somewhere between, as we mentioned before, like a sports coach and, say, a therapist. Is that a correct spectrum there? Is that kind of where you fall on the spectrum?
Well, here's one definition. So it helps people expand their capacity to reach both goals and aspirations. So expand their capacity, meaning that they have more ability, and then both goals and aspirations. Goals might be more short-term, aspirations might be more long-term. Sometimes when I'm walking around, I think there's a lot of people that they know what to do, that are self-aware, though they're just not doing it.
Yes. And so how is it that you sort of actualize this for them? Like, how do you help them be more self-aware? How how are you more in tune with what they should be doing than they themselves?
Are you working toward this Maslow's pyramid or anything like that?
Well, maybe eventually. But people have a very large capacity to hold two mutually exclusive things at the same time. I can be saying that something's important to me, but my actions are totally opposite that. And
tell me about that.
Yeah.
If Elizabeth and I haven't encountered that in our politics all our lives, we see it every day, don't we?
We do.
It's called hypocrisy.
So one thing a coach does is help a client to see that.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but then turn it into results. Because if we're just having a conversation now and then and not getting anywhere, it's not a good use of anybody's time. So there's an aspect of this, of really getting to the point of getting some results and getting them to stick.
So you're like my mother. You're like calling me out on everything that I... You're like, now Michelle.
Yeah, do as you say
said
you were
going to do this.
You said you were going to do this.
Yeah.
It's a little different than that because
This is Elizabeth Dickinson.
Yeah, thanks. Coaching employs some neuroscience in terms of the approach to it, and the approach to it is it's different from counseling, where the counselor is kind of the expert. The coach comes in and says, I believe you have the answers deep inside you, and that if we ask the correct questions and then ask you to make commitments and hold you accountable to those things, that you will be more successful. There's a wonderful piece of neuroscience that says if you ask a question and the person comes up with their own answer, it creates a new neural pathway in the brain, which doesn't happen if you tell someone what to do.
Yes.
And if you've created this new neural pathway, it means the person is more likely to remember and to act on it.
It's very interesting when you say that. Let me interrupt for just a second, because in a sense, as soon as you tell someone what to do, normal human reaction is to absolutely shut down that neural pathway.
Yes.
I will not do that because you told me. If for no other reason than because you told me that I had to do it.
Yes.
Because you have a problem with authority or something?
Shut up, Michelle. Okay, just kidding.
What?
No, but you've just made a really important point, that there are a lot of people that are walking around, and it may be a little bit of unconscious, and for some people it's very conscious, but I think the power of coaching is that you pull it, you encourage it out of the person, what it is that they need to do, because there are an awful lot of people, as Dave said, they're saying one thing, they know they should be doing one thing, but they're not actually doing it. And coaching really gets you over the hump, because it makes you say that out loud. And I mean, a common question in coaching would be, is that something that you're willing to commit to? Mm-hmm. And and honestly, people, I don't know if you have this
they start
experience.
Sweating, don't they?
Well, they kind of,
Sometimes.
they either, they sit up, they look askance, and because there's something very powerful. And, if you're asked that as a client, you can say no, or I'd like to adjust that. But a lot of people go, yeah, I would like to make a commitment to that. And a coach would then say, well, when do you want to do it by? And all of those things, because people want to be congruent with what they say and what they do. And the fact that you're paying somebody to hold you congruent to those things is more likely to make you congruent to do those things.
So it's like if I have my to-do list here, I've got somebody actively in my ear saying, okay, this is coming up on your to-do list. Like, what's your plan for this? By what time do you want to have this completed?
Yes.
And then do you follow through too on the other side, where once they've done it, there's an action there too?
Yeah, a common thing would be, well, how will I as the coach might say, well, how will I know that you've done that? And people go, what? And then I say, well, typically people will either email me or phone me to let me know they've done it, or they'll tell me at the next session. And so there's this real sense of accountability. Someone is checking up on me, but it really isn't as much the outside, it's the inside commitment that people make, and it's just that you have someone on the outside who's reminding you of that.
So Dave, now you work, it looks like you guys work maybe in a couple of different areas of this coaching. What first, let's find out what you do. Who do you talk with most of the time?
I do my work within organizations.
All right.
So I'm doing business coaching, and it'll be often targeted right at leadership development. So an organization will have some leader that they want to do some specific development with, and then I'll work with that person one-to-one.
Okay. Say I'm not a well-developed executive yet, but my company thinks I can be. Mm-hmm. Tell me how you would handle me. What would you do?
Well, really what I would do, I would come in, I'd meet with you, I'd meet with your manager, we'd have a conversation to target what I am always looking for is what's the one thing that if you do 100% job on, you're going to get the most leverage or the most results from. And then we're going to go after that and get to the place where then that becomes natural for you.
Yeah, it still sounds nebulous. Do you mind? I mean, it sounds still sort of gossamer out here. And tell me something more concrete. Like, do you get right into what my job is supposed to be rather than simply developing the leadership qualities of that job? Or
well, if
it's
a leadership quality that matters for the person's job, I'll give you an example. So I had one client frustrated because she was trying to get a promotion, and in her case, she was seen as someone who wasn't very strategic. She was seen as being very tactical. So as we got into our conversation, she told me a lot about, I'm very strategic, and they just, I don't understand what's going on. Well, as we dug into this some more, as I talked to people that were around her, because sometimes a client will have me do that, what we found out is everything that she talked about was tactical. She never was talking at all about strategy or really practicing that.
Well, she probably doesn't know the difference like I don't. No, I think some of us know a little bit about the difference between strategy and tactics, but not very many people really divide those two up much. Do you think?
No. So what she ended up doing is she had regular staff meetings. So we agreed that in her staff meetings, she was going to spend 15 minutes every meeting talking about strategy with her team. I also asked her to look in her organization, find someone who is a role model that does it really well. She found that person. She started meeting with that person to learn more about how strategy worked in that organization. She found out she didn't know as much about strategy as she thought she did. So she started all these little practices as part of her regular work. And after, it took about 5 months of this, she eventually got to the place where she was then seen as having the skill the organization was looking for, and she eventually got the promotion.
In some ways, it would seem to me that the strategic part of this is sort of going along with what the company has in mind for the larger picture. So it's what is supposed to go on. I mean, each department, each section has its own strategic approach to whatever that job is. Mm-hmm. The tactics are implementing them, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Do you get into that tactical stuff? Is it, how you implement those strategies at the core level or right at the department level, the office level?
Uh-huh.
Do you get into that business?
I really don't. Because that starts to bridge into consulting, which is very much about advice giving. And that's distinct as being different from coaching.
Really?
Back to what Elizabeth was talking about earlier. If I'm giving you a lot of advice on what you should do, well, if it doesn't work, it's my fault, and it was my plan. Now, through our conversation, if you come up with your own insights, they have far more staying power than anything that I could tell you, and that's part of what really makes coaching work, because you are really following your own plan that you develop. I'm helping out with problem-solving conversation. I'm helping you with accountability to what you say you want to do. And sometimes that's really all it takes for you to be able to get some good practice for what you want to change in your work.
That's Dave Wonder of the Wonder Group. We also have Elizabeth Dickinson with us, who's a freelance, right? I mean, you're not connected to a group of any kind?
No.
freelance coach, and we're talking about coaching. Anyway, I just wanted to, before we actually take a break here, which we will in a few minutes, I sort of wanted to zero in on this business of at what point are you able to ask the right questions? How do you know what the questions you should be asking are, for instance, about drawing people out? You were talking about earlier, Elizabeth, tapping inside either the commitment or the the desires these people might have.
Yes.
But something is blocking them from following through, or they're afraid. Probably a lot of fear involved in all this.
Yeah, and
why don't you get into sort of that business?
Sure. We don't ask a lot of why questions, like why aren't you doing that? That would be more in the realm of counseling. That would be, that's a little different. I mean, for instance, if a client comes to me, there's a form that, I have a 6-page form where we look at every aspect of their life, and they get to rate in all the major areas of their life, spiritual growth, career, relationships, home environment, all areas of their life. We do a very simple thing. I say, what's your level of satisfaction in each of these areas on a scale of 0 to 10? And then we look at those, and a question that I might ask is, what one area, if it were improved, would improve all the other areas of your life the most? And it's not necessarily the lowest scored area of their life.
Yeah.
It could be something in the middle. And then a simple question might be, what one thing could you do this week that would significantly raise that score for you? And that's some of the process by which you start to...
You actually you have a scoring system, sort of?
Yes, and it's a scoring, and it's a self-assessment.
Yes.
So that each person gets to say, what is your level? It's a very basic question. What is your level of fulfillment or satisfaction in all these major areas of your life? And that's how we start to come up with a plan of what areas need to be addressed. And just through this series of questions of, what would this area look like if it were a 10 in your life? Then what can you do to make it a 10 in your life? And it's
Can you give us any concrete examples of this
could I
going on?
coach you for after the break for maybe 5 minutes, because that would give you the best sense of what we're doing.
I think that would be fun.
I'm
That would be a
afraid.
challenge.
I'm afraid.
You can coach me then, Elizabeth.
All right.
I'd be
No, you can coach me.
All right.
I just don't have much of a future.
We can turn that around.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Well, what? We'll
It's
go
all
ahead
laid out for me, one or the other.
We'll go ahead and take our break then.
Yeah,
and
let's do
then we'll
that.
have a couple questions from the studio actually for our guests, and then I'll let Elizabeth coach me.
Well, and I'd love to try it. Okay, so if you've just tuned in, we're talking about the business and practice of life coaching and its many applications, and we'd like to get into a few more of those applications more succinctly. But anyway, and why it's grown so rapidly over the last 40 years or so. Our guests, again, are certified coaches of one sort or another. I'm sorry to say Paula Hemming came down ill last night and could not join us. She's with Relationship Champions. But we do have Elizabeth Dickinson, who does freelance coaching and is an old pal of ours, and then Dave Wondra of the Wondra Group. And at that, we'll get into the coaching side of this in a minute.
We will, and we want you to join us by giving us a call at 612-341-0980, 612-341-0980 to get your questions on the air live with us today. You can also tweet your comments for all those listeners all around the world at TTT Andy Driscoll, or post your comments on Truth to Tell's Facebook page, and we'll get to those within the hour. So stay tuned. Truth to Tell will be right back. Yes, and right now we'll get back to our discussion on coaching, or life coaching, that is, with coaches Dave Wondra and Elizabeth Dickinson here with us in the studio. And you can also join the conversation by calling 612 612-341-0980, 612-341-0980 for our local listeners, and for our listeners around the world, you can tweet us at TTT Andy Driscoll or post your questions and comments on Truth to Tell's Facebook page.
We should start setting up Skype or something, don't you think, guys?
Yeah.
So that we can get some calls from, out of town and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure that connection will come through really well.
Some of it comes in pretty well.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
I'm going to start bringing you Truth to Tell International.
Ooh.
I can hear it now.
Okay, Elizabeth, coach me.
I will. Before I start, I wanted to say for your listeners and viewers that if they want more information about coaching, I'm a member of the Minnesota chapter of the International Coaches Federation, and obviously Dave is on the International Coaches Federation board. But you can go to icfminnesota.org. So icfminnesota.org if any of your listeners or viewers want more information.
Okay, and then before we coach Andy, which I originally thought you were too shy to do that, Andy.
Shy?
Earlier you were resistant, but we just want to acknowledge a couple questions that we have from our studio, actually,
Great.
from our crew.
Great.
People were curious if people go to life coaches the same way they would like a therapist or they say gym membership, where you hire them, like somebody might come to you and say I want to subscribe to this many sessions, but then they don't really follow through or stick with it, how
does it work?
Yeah, are people really committed to signing on and then following through?
Yeah, typically people sign on, at least with me, and I think a lot of coaches. Dave might have a different setup, but for 3 months, 3, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. But generally starting with 3 to 6 months, and typically there's a discovery session which can last, an hour and a half to 3 hours, where you go over whatever your intake form is, come up with a plan. And then there's subsequent sessions of anywhere from half an hour or an hour each, on a regular basis over the next several months. And I think, what was the other question? It's definitely different than counseling, as I said, because counseling is looking at psychological motivations, and often it's focused on the past and trying to remediate things from the past so that you can move forward in a more psychologically healthy manner. And coaching is much more about what Dave said about your goals and aspirations.
It's a little more, not to trivialize what you do, but it almost sounds like a little bit more surfacey, a little more superficial.
Yes, it does sound that way anyway.
I think it may sound that way. I think the experience of it is actually very different, because people get to experience themselves being powerful in getting very clear about their goals and following through. And there's a really deep sense of empowerment that comes from doing, as opposed from from just understanding things. There are people that have come to me that have been to both counselors and then have come to me as a coach, and they found coaching more effective in actually implementing change in their life in a very direct, tangible fashion than from going to counseling. Counseling can be very valuable. You start to understand yourself better, why you're doing things, but it doesn't necessarily hold you accountable to making the actual changes in your life in the same way that coaching would.
Know thyself, as they say.
Know thyself attuned. Yeah. Then one other quick question, because I think this is probably just a simple answer, but we had a question from, I have a feeling this came from Kel, our engineer, because this sounds like something he would ask, but confidentiality. Can someone call on something that's been said in one of your sessions for legal testimony? Do they have any sort of confidence agreement with you if they take you on as a coach?
Yes. I mean, I certainly have a contract in confidentiality, and I know Dave does as well. And I invoke, because I was a counselor, I invoke a rather strict sense that, I will not share things unless I feel you're in danger to yourself or to others, or if someone else is being harmed. But those are extremely rare kinds of circumstances in coaching.
Well, let me jump in for just a second. Dave, what is your personal back? How did you come to coaching yourself? I mean, I know that Elizabeth at one time, I think you had psychology in your background.
Yeah, I have
right?
a master's in counseling psych. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what about you?
So I had a 20-year career in human resources first. And toward the end of that time, I was a VP of HR. I was working at a training company, and I started to get interested in doing client work. So I gave it a try.
PVR, no. What's that?
Huh?
Did you say what?
And I got interested in doing client work.
Okay, did you say PVR? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, boy.
We'll get to that in the coaching here in a minute.
How long have you been hearing voices?
Oh, many years.
So it was really through that and I wanted to run my own business.
Yeah.
And as I did investigating at that time, this was late 90s, I'd never heard of coaching.
Yeah.
And a colleague told me about it. I investigated it. And then I wanted to jump in with both feet. So I went to a certified program, graduated from that. And then I went a step farther. The International Coach Federation certifies coaches. Right now, there are about 9,000 worldwide that hold a credential. So it was kind of through that whole process. And, once I finished my training, back then, I haven't stopped. So in order to keep coaching going, and we need to keep working on our own development.
So you say 9,000 worldwide?
Yeah, that hold a credential.
A credential of what? Coaching credential?
A coaching.
So
yes.
there are that's only of the 48,000 that you were talking about earlier. Only 9,000 are, quote, accredited?
The International Coach Federation is the largest coaching association. There are others as well. And there are others that reside in other countries.
Yes.
So some of those organizations also do their own credentialing. What's important is that when selecting a coach, to ensure that the coach has training.
Yes.
And then also that they have some kind of certification. And then you'll know that it's a coach that is meeting certain ethical standards, has demonstrated proficiency on a set of competencies. 20 years ago, there was a coach in every city. Now there's a coach around every corner. There's a lot of coaches out there.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that myself.
So it's important as a consumer to be able to distinguish between coaches that have done their homework, have done their training, have gotten certified, and those that haven't.
That means, is there a lot of scam artists? Are there a lot of scam artists out there, Elizabeth?
I wouldn't say that they're scam artists, but because, just as you said, because people are familiar with coaches essentially from the athletic background, there are a lot of people that are doing what we would consider consulting, more in the advice-giving sense.
Actually telling you what to do.
Telling you what to do and calling themselves a coach, as opposed to a coach in the sense that I think the International Coaches Federation or Adler or any of the accredited schools consider it, which is more of the sense of asking questions, guiding from the sense of holding you accountable to your own best interests as you communicate them to us.
Who accredits? And who accredits the accreditor? Is this the joint accreditation group that does hospitals and other institutions? There's a joint.
No.
No. The International Coach Federation is the largest organization that's doing that right now. And so they're doing both for schools that are providing training. There are right now about 220 schools that are accredited through that organization. And then also members, individual coaches that want to have a coaching credential, they're able to get that as well. I would draw a parallel that if you think of what happened in the financial planning industry back in the 80s, it came up, all of a sudden everybody was a financial planner, and then consumers started to learn what questions to ask to pick a financial planner.
Yes.
Same thing's happening now. Because, for example, you could go to coachfederation.org, and you'll find a list of questions to ask, to use when you're selecting a coach, for example.
So coaching has sort of grown out of a need to get a handle on all of this stuff. All right, well, Elizabeth coaches.
Okay, well, which one of you am I coaching?
Go ahead with her.
Okay.
Well, and I just want to say that I
She
threw
has
out
a future.
I threw out there that Kel asked that question about legal confidentiality. Apparently, that was our intern Ray Lynn. So
Yes,
I
good
made
question.
an improper assumption there. Sorry.
Good question.
Yes, good question about that. Okay, so I'm coming to you, Elizabeth. I don't have a particular goal in mind, but I'm just like I'm ready to get something done. So
You're at sea. You
so
don't
coach
quite,
me. Yeah.
Okay.
What do I need to do to be more accomplished?
So what's something that you've always wanted to do, but you haven't gotten around to yet?
Oh, God.
Andy's scared of this question. I want to produce my own radio play.
You want to produce your own radio play?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A play, not a show.
A play.
Okay,
play.
not a weekly show, but a play.
A play. Yeah.
Right. And on a scale of 0 to 10, how important is this to you?
It's let's say it's a 7.
It's a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and what would make it a 10 in its importance?
If I knew that it was going to lead to some sort of lucrative career path, I guess.
Okay.
Actually get produced?
Well, that someone
I should shut up here.
That I would be able to pay my bills in that pursuit, I guess.
Okay, so this is part of a much larger dream of making money from being involved with radio in particular?
Well, I see it as something that would take a lot of my time, and I still have financial obligations, so I guess I would
Yes.
need to know that those obligations would be met, and I would still be able to give it enough time to make it a good quality product.
Okay. And what do you need to do to make this happen?
Additional people with special skills that I don't have.
Okay. And how would you find those people?
I don't know. I don't know if they exist through my current networks. I would assume I could probably find a lot of those people. Whether or not they would also want to commit the time would be the question.
Yeah. So what's one step that you could take, because it sounds like your own particular network may not include those people. Mm-hmm. What's a step you could take towards finding the people that you need to make this a reality?
Oh my goodness, this is a long process. I would...
She would normally take you on for 6 months, in order to get this thing. You're trying to do it in 5 minutes
right?
here.
I would probably have to put out some inquiries online or by word of mouth, I suppose, just to assess the interest of those around me or those I don't know yet that might be interested.
So you would need to put out some inquiries in various places to try and locate the people that did have the skills and the interest, it sounds like, to
Right.
join you on this venture. Yeah.
Are you listening, those people?
Are you looking for actors,
You can-
producers,
yeah.
backstage types, the
Facebook
ones who
me,
work in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's a step you could take towards this week towards doing that?
Well, I guess I just mentioned one. I could put an inquiry out on Facebook.
Yeah.
Have a pretty big network there.
Yeah. And you've got this, you've just said it out
I
loud
just
to
did.
all these people
to
listening.
everyone around the world.
Yeah. And is that something you want to commit to?
Sure.
Okay.
This is what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, I was
This whole
thinking,
commitment
see the
thing.
little nervousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are
yeah.
you? So you'd like to make a commitment to doing that this week?
Yes, I will say
Yes, you-
I want to make a radio play, and I will commit to doing that.
And is that specific enough? Do you know what you need to say and those types of things?
Please elaborate on what you mean.
do you know, does it feel handled to leave it like this?
To leave it like this.
That particular step.
You mean as far as like leaving it at just inquiring?
Say more.
Do I need to commit myself to other steps besides just inquiry? Is that what you're asking?
That wasn't, but we could go that direction. What I meant was, you know what you need to do in terms of putting out a Facebook message. You know what you need to say.
I think so.
Good. Yeah. That's the piece that's handled.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then, we're getting we're running out of time here. But I can see how this would turn into easily a 3 to 6 month session here, because as we're just talking about these single steps, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's like 5 sub-steps to
doing
this first step.
Yes.
And so you just sit there with the person and sort of break it down piece by piece.
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of it. And, with more time, we would take a little bit more time.
Well, and you were talking earlier about establishing the difference between consulting, where you actually are advising someone and actually giving them potential action steps without them coming up with it on their own.
Yes.
And you are basically just, it seems like the one thing that you're trying to drive is action of some kind, but it's very broad and undefined.
Well, let me just ask you, what was most valuable about what we just did?
You forced me to bring something out of this conceptual state into the actual action steps that it would take. Yes. And it makes me realize, like, oh, maybe I do have the time or maybe I don't. And so then I should probably, after making that realization, kind of go in and reanalyze, is this something that I really want to do based on the fact that I've just understood what really goes into making it happen.
Yes.
Okay, I have some questions. Okay. Very good. All right. Now, that's an interesting session, but what it also raised a lot of questions for me, because you guys have to. Do you ask a lot more questions about your client's background, so that you know what is on their plate, as it were, in life, and what they have to be thinking about in addition to whatever new aspirations they might have, in order to sort of push the envelope on whether or not, number one, is there time for them to do any of the work that they may not be doing now but would aspire to doing.
Yes.
And then,
and
so you would have to really make a fairly deep inquiry into their background or their present situation, would you not? Go ahead.
A lot of that comes through, for me, that 6-page questionnaire. And one of the...
you start off with a 6-page questionnaire.
There's a questionnaire that I send out for the discovery session that I mentioned, which is always the first longer session.
Right.
So we sort of skipped that step.
Mm-hmm. We did. Okay. We did. But there's a whole part of it. You probably have the same thing. You write down distractors or gremlins. Mm-hmm. Like, what are all the things? What are all the voices that tell you might not be able to do this? Or what are all the things you're telling yourself that are interfering with this? And then we break those down. We do our very best to blow those out of the water, to take them away as excuses, to find ways around them, to short circuit them, to outwit them, whatever it is that we need to do to get you to where you want to be, assuming, for instance, in your case, that this is what you really want to do.
Aren't some of these gremlins that she's talking about, they may be very real obligations that would prevent someone, certainly if they have...
They can be,
responsibility to other people.
They can be. And, and I can think of a client I can share with you right now who came to me who, he was a lawyer. He was in private practice. He really wanted to write. That was his big thing in life. He came to me with all kinds of assessments that showed his writing ability was off the charts. He had 2 little kids. He had a wife. He was the sole breadwinner in the family. And, his overarching thing, he would have loved to just do an MFA, but it was just not in the cards. But
MFA being a Master of Fine Arts.
in creative writing.
Creative writing. Okay.
And that, we explored it, we poked it, we pressed it, we did all of these things to evaluate whether that was what he really wanted to do, whether it was something that he could do. And what really came through was that writing was was one of his key values, the creative expression through the writing. Mm-hmm. And so what we found...
He couldn't do it through legal briefs.
Yeah. And so we came up with steps that he could express that value in his life without necessarily doing the MFA at this time.
I see.
And that's what was important, that he acknowledge how important that value was and find concrete steps to make sure that he was expressing that value of creativity.
Did you give him the out that, let's say, and I'm going to pick writing in this case, that maybe a credential in writing is not necessary to being a recognized writer and a writer who can actually make money?
That wasn't actually his concern. But yes, I think he knew that. I didn't need to say that to him.
You might need an MFA or a master's of some sort to teach writing, but to be a writer does not require a degree.
Right, and there was definitely a lot of, we did a lot of probing around that. And, he would have loved the experience of just immersing himself in a program where that's all he thought about. But that wasn't possible, and it wasn't necessarily tied to... but it was just important for the writing to be expressed.
I didn't mean to explore that particular, but that's just one of those things that you somewhere along the line, if you know all that about the industry, for instance, Dave, can you bring that knowledge that you've gained about where they're working, what they're doing, and what is expected of your client, maybe they're employees of this company?
Well, that's always part of the story, because it's really, there's so much depth to this work, because if we were just relying on tips and techniques, that's not very effective. So it's digging into a person's beliefs and values is really at the place that these changes happen. And there really is something to this work. The Coach Federation did a survey in 2009 of clients of coaching. 99% said they were satisfied with their work. 96% said they'd do it again. And then taking this farther, ROI, return on investment studies, are now being done on coaching.
ROI? Really?
ROI. They are. Now, no, this is in businesses.
Oh, I see.
Because there's an investment, and the organizations want to know what they're getting back.
Return on investment, my gosh. Okay, all right, go ahead.
And what the studies have been showing is a return of anywhere from twice the investment to many multiples of that. Okay. So that's one of the reasons that it's growing as fast as it does, because it works. Very quickly, we're running out of time. And so I'd like to get a little bit to the public policy aspect of this, because, this coaching idea sort of has dropped in the middle of a whole spectrum of, quote, counseling and psychology and all this other stuff. And are there not just a lot of people wondering, has anybody wondered, for instance, at the state legislature about whether or not this is a legitimate practice? Are you intruding on some areas of psychological counseling and psychotherapy that at least the professionals are threatened by and are trying to get legislation through?
And perhaps is it best for some people to do this in tandem with some other type of therapy too? I'd be interested to hear about that.
There are definitely people that come to me. There's definitely, on occasion, someone who comes to me who I think might be better served by being in counseling, and I would just say that to them. But it is coaching is an effective modality in conjunction with counseling, because although counselors think they do some of what coaching does, they don't necessarily do it in the very systematic, intentional way that coaches do it. And I'm very clear, because I have been a counselor, what the differences are. I don't think it's risen to a level of concern for policymakers to take an interest in it. That's not to say that they wouldn't in the future, but I don't think currently we're at that point.
And we're really, with the International Coach Federation, our view is that we can self-regulate. And so we're taking a leadership role in promoting credentialing, accreditation of training schools, living by the ethics. We also do ethics reviews for any complaints about coaching that come up from time to time. So, and we're also now working on joining with other coaching associations to work together for the sake of self-regulation.
Yes, I was going to say, there are the College of Pediatrics and the College of Specialties in Medicine.
Yes.
I suppose you guys are trying to sort of get a unified approach to all this?
Yes.
And let me just say that if people are interested in learning more, they can go to icfminnesota.org, and there is a section called Find a Coach. And most coaches, not all coaches, but most coaches will offer a complimentary consultation. So you can check out more than one coach. You can check out a coach to see if you have a good connection with them and if you think they're going to be effective for you.
Very quickly, Dave.
And for listeners outside of Minnesota, go to coachfederation.org. You find the same thing. You'll find a place to find coaches that are certified.
We must end it there, I'm sorry to say. Thanks to all of you, both of you, for being with us today. Elizabeth Dickens is a freelance coach. Elizabeth Dickinson, in her own right, a graduate of the very same Adler School that Paula Hemming teaches in. Many of you will be familiar with Elizabeth's local activism and environmental advocacy and her dancing and her performing. She does a one-person show about her great aunt, who was Emily Dickinson. So it's very interesting life that you've had there, Elizabeth. Thanks for coming and bringing this topic to my attention.
Yeah, very prolific member of the community there. And we also had with us Dave Wondra, who is a certified coach, founder of Wondra Group, and executive of the executive coaching practice Wondra Group, and an adjunct faculty member at the University of St. Thomas. Dave, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, and like the introduction of intermediary providers in most of our professions, physicians' assistants, nurse practitioners, dental therapists, paralegals, coaches have made their mark in a wide variety of life's pursuits and are surely here to stay, no doubt. This would seem to be a useful place to start an exploration of one's personal potential. Good luck to you on all that. Remember, next Monday on Truth to Tell at 9 a.m., the audio of this coming Wednesday's Community Connection televised special coming to you from North Hennepin Community College in Brooklyn Park. Do be with us out there if you can.
Yes, and you can find more information on our Facebook page. We have a Facebook event set up where you can RSVP. Want to let you know Truth to Tell is a co-production of Civic Media Minnesota and KFAI. Links to audio and video archives of this and all of our past shows will go up on TTT's own website, TruthToTell.org. And we'll have audio available as well for most recent weeks at KFAI.org.
And again, thanks to engineer Kel Heil today, and our assistants, Mark Kerner and Peter Hansen and Ray Lynn Prokaski.
Join us next week for another edition of Truth to Tell. Until then, I'm Michelle Alimoradi.
And I'm Andy Driscoll, and remember, as always, do take care of each other.